the third step here is to design your ideal life. Because your work or career is only one element of your ideal life, you've got everything else. Where do you live geographically? Are you living in your ideal place? What about your family? Do you have family considerations? Do you need to be near schools or looking after somebody? You need to be near aging parents or something. So there may be other things that fit into your whole life that you have to take into consideration. And work or career is only one of those. And so often we make the mistake of making that the number one priority and trying to make the rest of our life fit around the work, which may not always be the best strategy. So what I recommend is that you actually take the time to think about, start with a blank piece of paper, a complete fresh start. Your ideal life may not look anything like your current life. You may want to scrap your whole life. You may not, but you might want to. So really take your life and say, if I could just have a blank slate, what would I put in my ideal life? And you can do a little sketch of it if you want, do little drawings. You can write it down, you can do a collage, you can cut out pictures from a magazine and glue them on a piece of paper or a piece of whiteboard or something. However you want to do it is fine with me. It doesn't really matter, but do it. Take the moment to think out what do you really want in your life. Now this is a remarkably simple exercise, but extremely powerful. I just found I was in the U.S. this summer cleaning out I had some old files in my mom's attic. And so I was cleaning those out, getting rid of 7 years of tax documents and shredding those. And I came across my own work from about 14 years ago when I was single and living in my tiny 500 square foot, one-bedroom apartment, 5-story walk-up in Manhattan in the middle of New York City with a roommate, and was designing my ideal life. And I found this one-page sketch that I had drawn out. Let me tell you, this was a sketch. These were little stick figure sort of drawings, and like you would get from a 5-year-old. And there was my ideal life, and I was absolutely astounded to discover that I had achieved my ideal life. And in this picture, at the time I was single, I had no relationship at all. I was just starting my coaching business. So it was a tiny little tiny business, and was living in this little rented apartment in New York City. My ideal life had that I had this gorgeous beach house. Actually, it was just a little cottage, and this little chimney with smoke coming out of the top, and the beach, palm trees. And I had a husband, and I had 2 little kids, and I had this international speaking career, and I was a best-selling author. And, I had drawn a little podium, and there were all these little circles representing all the people there. And, all this, and there was a jet plane in there for all my international travels that I travel and go to foreign countries. And lo and behold, I also did have a horse ranch in there and everything. But that was pretty much it. And, of course, oh, yes, I had $5 million in savings. So I have achieved everything on that little sketch, except I don't have anywhere near $5 million. I don't even have $1 million. But the good news is you don't need $1 million to have your ideal life. And I don't have a horse ranch anywhere. But actually, in truth, I don't really want to look after a horse shit, so I didn't want to be shoveling after horses. I'm perfectly happy to just rent a horse and ride one on occasion. So I don't have the things that I actually don't really want. And this was before I owned any property and realized how much maintenance it takes to maintain a property. But I've got that beach house, and it's more than a cottage. It's a fantastic house. So all that, and the husband and the kids, I've got the important stuff, especially the important stuff that's in my ideal life. And this is why I mention it. It actually does work. You can write this stuff down, and you don't need $5 million or even $1 million to have it. So write down your ideal life. It can be sort of pie in the sky. It had nothing to do with my life at the time when I was single and living in an apartment and had no property and no money and credit card debt. So, you don't have to worry about it being realistic. Let me just say that. Take the time to do it because it works. That's a really powerful little exercise. And I just found this after all these years, and I thought, oh my gosh, there it is. And it was a really nifty thing because not only did I see that exercise works, but I also saw you don't need millions of dollars to have your ideal life. And, they say be careful what you wish for because you might get it. Well, you don't have to worry too much about that because I don't have the horse ranch, so thank goodness I don't have to do that. So you may have it in there and may not really, really want that, and don't worry, you won't get that. So that's the good news. You can't screw up, basically, is what I'm trying to say. You do this, have fun with it. Don't worry if there's something in there that you actually don't want later on, because you can always just give that away or give it up or not have it. So it's important. And the last example here I've got down on this webinar here is this colleague who worked on Mondays and took the rest of the week off to ski. You may not need to work as much as you think you need to work if you don't need a fancy lifestyle. And so that's why I was talking about people might need to swap a lifestyle, an expensive lifestyle, to get the life they really want. And what you'll discover is that when you're living the life you really want that's based on your passions and values, you don't need as much money. You don't need as much as you think you do because you're so happy and fulfilled. You spend less. A lot of our spending is medicative spending for compensating for a life or a career that we hate. So I just had one of my clients was in a human resources director at a law firm, and she didn't like it. I mean, she was very good at it. She's really smart. And she said, well, my real passions in life is looking after dogs. I like dogs. How can I make money doing dogs? I volunteer at the dog shelter and but that's not going to pay any of my bills. And my other passion is wine. So, okay, so maybe I could be a wine salesperson or something. Anyway, we started looking at how she can do this. And ultimately what she's done is created this business in Austin, Texas called Hip Hounds, which is this high-end doggy daycare business. And she set it up. She owns it. And it's doing really well. So not only is she financially, she's doing just fine, but she's also admitted, I didn't quite believe you, Elaine, when you said that I wouldn't need as much money when I was doing what I love. But she said, I don't need those $200 pair of Chanel sunglasses anymore. I don't need some fancy car. I just need a truck where I can haul these dogs around. And I'm happy buying a T-shirt at Walmart. So she doesn't need what she thought she needed when she got out of that quit a job in human resources. And now she's happy. She's got loads of time and is doing just fine. So you can actually, have a wonderful life around your passions. So even if they seem like there's no money in them, now more than ever before, you have the potential to really do something that is both you're going to pay the bills and something rewarding. And I don't think it's ever been easier in the history of mankind because the internet makes this so easy. So I'm harping on this ideal life because if you do nothing else from today's talk, I hope I've inspired you to take 10 minutes afterwards to draw a little sketch of your own ideal life. And then sock that away somewhere or post it up. Better yet, post it up somewhere so you can see it. Okay, any questions so far?
Elaine, this is Emily. We do have a couple questions.
Mm-hmm.
One is, do you put a timeline on your ideal life?
That's a good question. All these goal-setting things say, put it by when that you're going to have that. I'm just going to tell you, I've done that before. I said, well, I'm going to have this by when. And that's always been disappointing to me because I never seem to get my goals as soon as I'd like them. But when I look back on things, I think, you know what, actually, I get them when it's perfect, when I'm ready. So, but it's never as soon as I think it should be. So I'll just tell you that right now. I have not had good luck personally with assigning dates to things. I just think throw it out there and trust that the universe will deliver at the appropriate time. That would be my take on it.
Good. One more question.
Other people I'm sure will say the opposite, but there you go. Yeah, you got another question?
Yep. One is, do you recommend different or more compressed approaches, shorter timeline, for example, for folks that are over 50 years old and expect to work for just another 15 to 20 years and may face a new set of expectations by prospective employers?
A different approach for that? No, not at all. I mean, most people actually, I think the average job is only 3 years now. People only stay in the jobs now for about 3 years. There's a huge everything's going much faster now. So new jobs are being invented at a rapid rate. I mean, just remember, a few years ago, nobody would even know what a web designer was. So there's new jobs constantly being created and opening up. I mean, come on, who's heard of life coaching? That was invented in my lifetime. Nobody heard about having a life coach before. Good grief. So the stuff is happening all the time, and it's going to continue even faster as technology is speeding up the rate at which things change. So the average, and this is a statistic, Most people don't stay in jobs now more than 3 years. So this is the new statistic. And jobs are changing. 10 years from now, there will be a whole new 50% of the jobs that we know today will be gone, and there will be new jobs in place of them. So this webinar that I'm going through today, we're going to talk about the basics that will apply from now or 10 years from now. So we'll talk about these basics. You may need to take your ideal life and say, okay, given that I'm 50, what does my ideal life look like now? Maybe time to relook at what your ideal is, and maybe there's elements of your life that were ideal that no longer suit you anymore. You've got the big house and the family's gone. Does it make sense? Maybe yes, maybe not. There's some things you may want to relook at, and so every so often take a look. Is this really my ideal life now? Do I need to tweak this now to make this ideal? So I hope that answered your question. If not, ask again.